When Emma first said those words, "You'll get me only once a month," I thought she was joking. We'd been married for 5 years and sure, things weren't as passionate as they once were. But I never imagined she'd reduce intimacy to a calendar event. I laughed it off that night, thinking maybe she was just tired or annoyed about something trivial. But when the next few weeks passed, I realized she meant every word. It started gradually. She began setting rules about when we could be close. Once it was because she had a headache, another time because she had an early meeting, and soon every excuse became a habit. Our home, once filled with laughter, late-night talks, and lazy Sunday mornings, turned into a quiet museum of what used to be. She moved through the house like a guest who overstayed her welcome, and I found myself wondering when she stopped looking at me the way she used to. I tried to fix it. I planned dates, cooked her favorite meals, even booked a weekend getaway to the cabin we once loved. She scrolled through her phone most of the trip, posting pictures of sunsets and wine glasses, pretending everything was perfect. But when I reached for her that night, she turned away and said softly, "You know the deal. Once a month, remember?" That was the night something inside me broke. Not loudly, not with anger, but with the quiet, sinking weight of realization. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was a placeholder. A man fulfilling her version of marriage while she emotionally lived somewhere else. First, I blamed myself. Maybe I'd stopped being interesting. Maybe I'd let routine make me dull. But when I overheard her on the phone one night laughing with her friend saying, "He's too sensitive. At least this way I get space," I understood it wasn't about space, it was about control. So I stopped asking. I stopped trying. If she wanted me once a month, I decided that's exactly what she would get. Not more, not less. I started spending my time differently. Stayed late at work. Joined a local photography group. Went fishing with old friends. The silence that used to suffocate me slowly started to feel peaceful. And for the first time in years, I realized that loneliness with self-respect felt better than companionship with humiliation. It didn't take long for Emma to notice the shift. At first, she seemed relieved that I'd stopped trying, that there were no more surprise dinners, no late-night talks, no quiet requests for affection. She moved freely through the house as though she had finally won the unspoken war between us. But victory has a strange aftertaste when the person you defeated stops caring altogether. 2 weeks passed before she asked, "Are you okay?" I nodded, smiling politely. Never better. And in a way I meant it. I slept peacefully now. I no longer waited for validation or affection that came laced with pity. The ache of rejection had dulled into something steady and manageable, like an old scar that reminded me of pain without reopening the wound. Emma began noticing little things. The way I started leaving early for work and coming home late. How I didn't text her during the day anymore, not even out of habit. She used to ignore my messages. Now she waited for them. When they didn't come, she'd scroll through her phone, pretending not to care. On the rare evenings we sat together, the silence between us was loud enough to make her fidget. Once she tried to bring up how distant I'd become, saying, "You're always busy now." I replied gently, "I thought you wanted space." The look on her face told me she finally understood the irony, but pride is a stubborn thing. She didn't apologize. She just changed the topic and poured herself another glass of wine. By the 3rd month, the gap between our once-a-month encounters stretched even further. One evening I packed a small bag and told her I'd be spending the weekend at the lake with friends. She barely reacted, mumbling, "Okay, have fun." But that night when I posted a photo with friends around a campfire, she liked it within minutes. A small hollow gesture that said more than words ever could. When I returned home, she tried to greet me with warmth, cooking my favorite meal. The smell of rosemary and garlic filled the air, nostalgic, almost painful. We ate in near silence until she finally said, "You didn't call." I looked up and said softly, "You never used to notice." Her eyes flickered, part guilt, part regret, but she said nothing. It was strange watching her wrestle with emotions she once dismissed in me. For years I had been the one reaching out, trying to hold together what she carelessly let slip. Now the roles had quietly reversed, and I could feel her slipping into the very loneliness she once imposed on me. By the 6th month our marriage looked perfect from the outside, 2 professionals sharing a home, attending family dinners, smiling for pictures. But behind closed doors, we were strangers orbiting each other's silence. She still tried to play the part, asking casual questions about my day, complimenting my shirts, even suggesting a movie night. I could see the effort, but it felt mechanical, like a performance rehearsed too late. One Friday evening I came home, dropped my bag by the door and said, "I'll be gone for a few days business trip." It wasn't a lie, just not the whole truth. I was taking time off work, staying at a friend's cabin by the lake, the same one where I'd once taken Emma to celebrate our first anniversary. The place had become my quiet refuge. I spent my mornings on the dock, camera in hand, capturing the golden light stretching across still water. For the first time in a long while, I felt peace that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. When I returned, Emma was waiting at the door. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged. "You could have told me," she said softly. "Told you what?" I asked. "That you were going. That you were leaving me behind." I shrugged. "You said once a month was enough. I just thought I'd make it fair." Her composure cracked. She followed me to the kitchen, words spilling out. "I didn't mean it like that. I was frustrated. I thought you'd fight for me, not just what?" I interrupted. "Not just respect your boundary." The silence that followed was heavy. She sank into a chair, staring at her hands. "I miss you," she whispered. "I thought I wanted space, but now it feels like I'm the one standing outside my own marriage." I wanted to feel pity, maybe even love. But what I felt was clarity. The kind that comes after a storm, quiet, clean, irreversible. "I gave you everything," I said calmly. "Patience, effort, understanding. You turned it into a schedule. So I adapted. You taught me how to live without you, Emma. And I learned." She looked up, tears tracing her cheeks. "Can't we start over?" I smiled faintly. "We already did." I started over. "You just weren't there to see it." That night I packed my things. Not out of anger but acceptance. She had reduced love to a monthly obligation, and I had simply mirrored her lesson. The next morning as I closed the door behind me, she called out my name. Once, then again, but I didn't turn back. Now she sees me exactly once a month, when I stop by to collect my mail and drop off the papers for our divorce. And every time she looks at me the way I once looked at her, like she's realizing too late how painful once a month can really be.